Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jay Darren Gross. This is the podcast focused on commercial real estate investment and risk management strategies. Weekly, we have conversations with commercial real estate investors and professionals who provide their experience and insight to help you grow your real estate portfolio. Today, my guest is Joe Evangelisti. Joe is the executive coach with over 5,000 hours of experience under his belt, as well as the CEO and partner of one of the top self-storage development companies in the country. And in just a minute, we're going to speak with Joe about the opportunities in self-storage and what you can do to level up your investment game. But first, a quick reminder, if you like our show, CREPN Radio, there are a couple things you can do to help. You can like, share, and subscribe. And as always, we encourage you to leave a comment. We love to hear from our listeners. Also, if you want to see how handsome our guests are, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. You can find us on YouTube at Commercial Real Estate Pro Network. And while you're there, please subscribe. With that, I want to welcome my guest, Joe. Welcome to CREPN Radio.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for doing this. I'm looking forward to our talk today. Before we jump into it, if you could take just a minute and share a little bit about your background.
Sure, absolutely. My whole life I've been in construction. I started from a kid. My dad was a drywall contractor turned general contractor in my teens, and by the time I was out of high school, he was building houses. And I just remember from the earliest age, walking around those job sites, being about 3.5 feet tall and holding on to his leg, and just experiencing being in the construction and the building of it all. And from that part, I fell in love with it. Quickly out of high school, I went into the U.S. military, the U.S. Navy Seabees, and a lot of people have never heard of the Seabees, but it's the construction battalions of the Navy. And so we go everywhere by air. We go over, we stay on land. We physically build just about anything. We do runway repair and building construction, and there's equipment operators, and so just about anything that can be built, Seabees can build. And I had an amazing tour. I did that for 6 years, and inevitably got into real estate and started doing what I'm doing today.
Awesome. So let me ask you, the intro there, I was reading self-storage. It sounds like your dad was building homes in the Navy. You were kind of, I'm assuming, doing all things that they needed, like you said, runways and that.
Yep.
How did you arrive or settle on the asset class of self-storage?
Well, Darren, it was a 12-year journey. I mean, really, it started. I tell people I was lucky enough to get into real estate in 2007, and I say that because it taught me just about every lesson I think I could have learned in a condensed period of time, instead of having time to experience it. But we first got into 2007, and we started flipping houses back then, and I was just fresh out of the military, and I had a little bit of savings saved up, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to double down. I'm going to invest in this real estate. And I bought it the traditional way. We put money into a pot. We went and paid 25% down, got bank financing. And, we thought we were going to crush it. We thought we were going to do 3, 4, 5 flips a year and get rich. And the opposite happened. We got stuck, right? We got into a couple flips. We did them all. We did them all by hand. I did them nights and weekends while I was holding down another job. And, about a year and a half into it, we had 3 or 4 going at that time, thinking we could sell them, and the market really started to soften and then inevitably, everybody knows, crashed. And so it forced us to really what I call course correct or pivot. Back then I didn't know what it was. I just knew I had to find some other way of means to make it work, or, like give up and quit and file bankruptcy. Right. So, we luckily took the former, and we made some adjustments, and we ended up putting tenants in place and refinancing the properties and keeping them long-term as holds. And, as things started to shift in the economy and loosen up a little bit, we inevitably started buying houses and flipping them. And, over the course of that, following 10 to 12 years, we did about 1,000 of those single family fix and flips. We're proud of that. I had a brokerage business going on. I had, the flip business. I was a landlord. I was doing multiple things. But in that course of there somewhere, I did get massively stressed out and massively worn out, and found myself chasing, 10 different rabbits at the same time. And, I'm sure a lot of your listeners have felt that way at some point in their life where, you feel like you're doing the right thing. You feel like you're being successful. You have money and, things are coming together, but you just can't keep up. And that's really where, I decided I had to make a change and I had to do something differently and start to create more efficiencies and effectiveness and streamline and really build businesses that were built for my lifestyle and not building my life around my businesses. And, that ultimately led us to self-storage development, where we're at today. And we've never looked back. It's been amazing.
No, I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah,
The journey is often paved with a lot of painful lessons there, but
it
they
is.
typically, they make you much more wise to what's coming. And like you said, pivoting. I think that's an important lesson. Period. I mean,
Mhm.
some of the most successful investors I know,
Yep.
they make money when the market's going up. They make money when the market's going down. They make money on the West Coast, on the East Coast, Southeast. It doesn't matter. They're always looking for the opportunity. Whereas I think, too often, myself included, have such a local finite view of the asset or the opportunity. And when it's not going, it's like, oh shoot, the opportunity's gone. And it's just not the case in real estate. There's always an opportunity.
There
And
is. Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah, it
that's
depends
awesome.
where you have to look. And I know I love that word opportunity because I think one of the best traits of successful entrepreneurs is turning problems into opportunities. Right? We can focus on the issue and say, oh man, this is going to be too tough, or we can focus on what is this issue causing me to do that allows me to expand. How can I take an issue and turn it into an opportunity? And I think that's it's one of those core values that a lot of successful business owners have.
Got it. Well, let's talk a little bit about the self storage.
Mhm.
So how long have you been doing the self storage?
So we're a little over 3 years into self storage, and that's me doing research in the market and me learning a whole bunch of stuff the hard way. But also, what I kind of think is one of my unique abilities is really building amazing teams of people. So over the last 3 years, 2 years, but leading up to this, we were just doing research, figuring out the right markets, figuring out who we want to work with, figuring out who we want to have on our team. And now for the last little bit over a year or so, we've been doing it. And we've been going ahead with it, and it's been awesome.
So let me ask you, I mean, self storage as opposed to housing.
Mhm.
I think housing, you can go to a marketplace and you can identify that there's inflow or there's growth, and there's they're based on lack of starts or lack of supply, there's identifiable demand.
Mhm.
How do you arrive at the uh, recognizing there's a demand or an opportunity for self storage? What are some of the um, I don't know, the tells or the key
Sure.
indicators that you look for in a marketplace?
Yeah. Well, I'll take you back to when we were doing single family and trying to decide what was the next move, right? I knew at that level, I wanted to find something that was more scalable, something that I could more easily control, effectively control. When we were doing single family fix and flips, we were doing 80 to 100 a year, scattered all over our region, 50 miles in either direction, right? And different price points and different subcontractors and tons of cash flow in and out and different projects and closings every week. And so it just got a lot to handle and manage. So I said, okay, well, if I want to start to continue to do construction and development, how do I do something that's replicatable? How do I do something that's designed once or, just modified slightly each time, but we have one big brand on it, and we don't have to pick out tile and toilets and kitchen cabinets for every single one, right? We know that this is our box, this is what we build. And so I started out looking into multifamily development, thinking that might be the way to go. But again, multifamily is just a variation of single family. It's just bigger, right? So I still have to pick all that stuff out. I still have to, manage the construction of stuff where there's multiple design elements and so forth. So when I get into self storage, it's concrete and steel. It's so simple. There's not a lot that goes in it. We're building boxes, and so it was a simplified version of that. However, it's also a very, very stable industry. If you look back over the last 40 or 50 years, self storage really hasn't shaken. We had a massive downturn in the 80s. Self storage really didn't go anywhere. We had a massive downturn in '08. Self storage really didn't go anywhere. In fact, it started to creep up because there's always been a demand because it's a very broad tenancy, right? We have people storing their home goods. We have contractors. We have attorneys and insurance companies storing files. There's just a variation a lot of the tenancy and occupants. And then to add to that, we're managing in a particular site. We're spreading our risk over 700 or 800 tenants versus if I build a 100,000 square foot facility with 800 units, I have 800 tenants paying me $75 to $150 a month. If I do that same thing with an apartment building, I don't know how many apartments I get out of that. Maybe I get, let's call it 50, right? I got 50 tenants, and nothing really pushed us across the finish line more for us than COVID, when tenancy rights and eviction holdings and all these things started to happen during COVID. Nothing like that affected the storage industry, right? No one's being told that they don't have to pay their $75 a month to store their stuff. So with all that and all that being said, it's really a lot of the drivers that make the industry really solid.
Well, that's a beautiful point to make. The lack of eviction moratorium, or just all those dynamics we're still dealing with. In fact, I'm here in Portland, Oregon. I was just looking in the paper here. I think they've extended it to February of 22 for tenants to pay back the rent that they haven't paid. I'm like, wow, this is going a little too far.
Yeah, and the reality of it is that ever going to happen? I mean, I still have a couple, over 100 single family rentals just from building up portfolio over the years, and we have 3 or 4 tenants that haven't paid since March of 2020. They owe us $15,000-$20,000 or more, and someone who's used to paying $1,500 a month, and barely making their rent all that time, where are they going to come up with $20,000? How is that going to happen? And they've been making, a lot of them have either been on unemployment or they've been working the whole time. They just chose, hey, this is a better road, and I'm not going to have to pay. So why would I pay? It's unfortunate, and I don't know that those corrections or those laws really. I'm sure they affected some people, but for the majority of people, it's just if you have bad tenants, they're going to take advantage of systems when they're put in place like that.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely some missteps in what we've done here, and it's unfortunate. And sooner we get through it, the better. But as far as your situation with the self storage, like you said, you're not affected by that. If people don't pay their bill, what are the I mean, is it an eviction, or is it just basically a claim against their stuff to where you can sell it, or how's that? What's the process there?
It's fairly simple. It changes a little bit in each state depending on how you have to, announce that there's going to be, if you're auctioning off the items or stuff like that. But for the most part, it's simple. If your rent is due on the 1st and you have a $75 a month payment, you can't get in on the 3rd or 4th. Like, you can't get through the front gate. You can't unlock the code. So if you want to get access to your stuff, you got to become current on your rent. And so, like I said, every facility is going to be managed different, but some places you can wait 90 days and then you can put it in the paper, and then you can have a public auction. And if someone shows up, if not, then you eradicate the space and make it clean again for a new tenant. But it's that simple fact of, hey, if I want my stuff, it's worth me paying my $75 to get it back and then go inside and get it, right? So, it's a matter of, you just get locked out immediately, which obviously doesn't happen in the residential world. So it makes it a little bit more clean.
No, I love that. Just the mechanics of it. It's like, hey, you didn't make your payments, you can't come in. And I'm just kind of curious. I've seen the Storage Wars or whatever the reality shows where they have all these auctions and stuff for the storage, or for what's behind door number 1 or whatever. What's the percentage of people that end up in that position?
I couldn't tell you that. I tell you what, Darren, I look at us as pure developers. I mean, we actually developed the deal and then we hand it off to nationwide third-party managers. So like your Extra Space and your Cube Smarts and your Life Store, these guys, for the most part, they own a big chunk, but the reality of it is they manage way more than they own. So when you see a sign like that, they're the ones that do the great marketing. They take care of the tenants. They make sure that we're full. We really rely on them after construction.
Gotcha. So you guys basically identify the space, and do you rely on them for some input as to whether or not this will be a good space? Is there a some sort of a relationship before you break ground with the eventual manager of your property?
Yeah, absolutely. The due diligence process I think, is one of the things that sets us apart. First of all, we buy primarily off market property. With my background in finding single family real estate, we really took a lot of that marketing and that direct to seller capability to create great opportunities for us and our investors. So most of the time, we're either buying raw land or buying a darkened big box chain or doing a value add. When we do that, we're going direct to the seller and we're creating a great opportunity there. And then again. Figuring out from there. But part of that process, that purchase process, is a multi-tiered due diligence, right? We're getting a third-party independent feasibility study, then we're getting a feasibility study from one of the nationwide managers, and then we're getting one from our bank feasibility study. Our team does their own internal feasibility study. And then we're going to compare all four of those studies at the same time and say, okay, does it all jive, right? Did we all get the close to the right numbers? Does it seem like this is an opportunity? And if more than one of those is like, this is a wishy-washy opportunity, well, then we'll pass on it and we'll do something else.
Got it. What's the cycle as far as the length of the cycle from identifying a property to handing the keys over to the management company to start renting?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit different depending if we're doing a ground up construction, which would be the longest, right? We're taking a flat piece of ground and we have to get variances or entitlements or zoning, requirements met. It'll take us a little bit longer to do that. The big box chains where we're taking an abandoned building and we're renovating them. Obviously, we're shaving a lot of time off because the structure is there, right? It's already got a roof, it's already got walls, and we're just building out inside of it. So it's going to be a little less time. And then last but not least is your value add. That's where we take a existing site that needs improvement. Maybe it has deferred maintenance. Maybe it has a bad marketing plan. A lot of times you have there's a massive piece of the self-storage industry. Most people don't realize this. That's just mom and pops, right? We get used to seeing these public storages all over the place and think that that's the main storage place. But honestly, it's a lot of mom and pop storage places that have been run for the last 30 years. And they need upgrading, they need updating, and sometimes they got a lot of handshake deals going on for leases and things like that. So we have to adjust and create more efficiencies and create bigger NOI, which is also making the deal more valuable. And that would be the quickest one, right? So I would say if you're talking about the quickest one, which would be a value add, sometimes that could be done in 6 months to a year, depending on what needs to be done or if you're expanding. Your big box renovation is going to be somewhere in that 18-month to 24-month category. And then new construction, usually when we do a raise for that, we're doing a 30 to 36-month raise, just because, again, the townships and especially with COVID being delayed, I mean, the inspection phase and the review phase and all that kind of thing has been taking a little bit longer than normal because, people are remote.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so again, going back to just the recognizing the opportunity in a particular market, is that are you relying on the eventual manager of the property to say, this market right here we could do something if you find something, or are you guys do you have your list of criteria and you're hunting um, the, the landscape and then trying to go back to them to say, hey, what about this market, or how? Tell me how that works for you as far as you're finding your different markets that you guys are in.
So it's a combination of those two things and a couple others. When we go out to seek a market, first of all, we're looking for MSAs that are increasing in size, or that there's large corporations are moving into. For example, we're doing one in Atlanta right now. It's in underwriting. Atlanta is one of those markets where the American Cancer Society is there, Coca-Cola is there, Amazon is there. It's just massive corporations, and they're diverse corporations. And Atlanta as a city just keeps going out, just keeps expanding. Right? There's more population coming in, as opposed to a lot of the Northeast states. I mean, I live in New Jersey. Not that we're not building in New Jersey because the population is still great, but there's people leaving. Right? They're going south. They want to be in Florida and Tennessee and Georgia and Texas. So number one is we're trying to find growing populations, or at least get in where the population is growing to, right? A lot of the Carolinas have cities that are starting to expand out, the Raleighs and Charlestons and stuff like that. And so we're looking for expanding opportunities. But to go back to the first thing you said, which is, do we do it first? Does the third party do it first? It's all a well orchestrated effort at the very beginning, because we take that parcel, we get all of the due diligence and all the data that we need up front. And then really all the teams start working on it at the same time. Our third party management will take a look at it. Our independent feasibility will look at it. Our in-house is now doing their due diligence. And really what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a story around that site. What makes it popular? What makes it a good destination for us to build? What makes it something we can fill up quicker than maybe, somewhere else? And of course, all of those different parties add their own thoughts and ideas in, because if you're dealing with a third party manager, they're already managing stuff in the area. So they know what the fill up rates are. They know what the rent rates are. They know how quick it's going to fill up. And then, so they can give you that end of the story. The feasibility guy, right? He's doing self-storage sites all over the country. So, most likely he just did one nearby. And so he's going to be able to tell you what's going on there now and what's happening. And then, of course, the team brings their eyes to it. And, all of that creates the decision of whether or not we move forward to bringing in investors, or it's a pass.
Got it. So as far as the actual construction, are you guys relying on a local general contractor to build it for you, or are you guys deploying your own people, or how are you doing that?
Yeah, so we work with site supervisors that we have in-house, and generally there's going to be a component of a general contractor there. However, like I said earlier, what's nice about these things is they're very simple, right? So, our local, we'll always have a local civil engineering team on ground, because you need those people to help through the jurisdiction and uses and understanding of, water tables and everything that's in that local area. But for the most part, we're using nationwide general contractors to do the construction, to do the concrete, to do the locker build out inside. And so it's a mix, but it's a lot of the same contractors going from site to site, because that's what they do. They just, they travel and they build.
Got it. And as far as the capital to do these, are you guys syndicating, or how are you going about raising the capital?
Correct. Yeah, it's a combination of syndication and bank financing. We have an amazing pool of accredited investors that we tap into, and we really look at them as our partners, even though they're LPs and not GPs. And we look at those as people that we want to build with and we want to grow with, because our syndicated deals, they never relinquish equity. So if they come in with equity, they have equity in perpetuity. Even after they get their cash out and they're refinanced in the backside, they own that piece. They're a part owner for the duration. So we kind of treat that and think it's extra special, because I want those people to ride with us on the next deal and the next deal and the next deal, and ultimately build legacy wealth together.
No, I like that model. Are you, or at least based on what I'm hearing you say, the plan is kind of build and hold? Then is that kind of the?
Yeah, we started out early on thinking, man, we would sell some, we'll keep some, we'll sell some, and I owe it to my business partner, Brian, who's our COO. He's kind of our head of construction. He sat down like not too long ago, and he was like, "Why would we want to sell any of these? We'll just keep them as long as we possibly can. I mean, we're refinancing, we're stabilizing, and we have cash flow. What's the sense, right? Why would we do that? Because hopefully we're going to go back 15 years from now and look back and say, man, that was a hell of a portfolio we put together."
And as far as the investors, that is it basically a refi that you're getting them their money back, and then they're saying, "Hey, what about the next one?" And is that kind of the? Do you find that a lot, where the people are wanting to get in on the next one? Is that? Do you find
Absolutely.
that to be the case?
Yeah. In fact, almost every deal we have is between 50 and 60 cents on the dollar that we're into post or pre-stabilization. So, the goal here is that we continue to build these almost 2x equity deals that they can more than easily take out the refinance, more than easily take out the initial investment. We'll still have some leftover after that. And yeah, they ride with us to the next one, because we over delivered.
Oh, that's great. So let's take a minute here and talk a little bit about your other opportunity, or the activity that you're involved in with the executive coaching.
Sure.
So I'm curious from a standpoint of like a real estate investor, or somebody that's wanting to get into real estate investing. If you could speak to them as far as how they could improve their performance, or how they can get to that next level. If they're, they have a single family property, they want to get into multiples, or they get,
Mhm.
small multiples, they want to get into large multiples. Is there any insight that you can provide on, maybe a way of thinking or a way of acting that, you know, they should consider?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you asking me that. I mean, part of what really drove me to become an executive coach was the position that I was in when I told you that I was doing that chasing game, right? Where I was wearing so many hats, and I kind of felt like they say no man is an island. Well, I was an island, right? I was running as fast as I could. I had at that point I had two young girls, I had a new wife, I had a new house, two dogs, and I wasn't spending nearly what I should be on them, on my lifestyle, right? I was chasing all this opportunity, and I kept thinking if I put in more hours, I can make it work. I just do more, do more, do more, and I'll be more, right? And that was the epiphany moment where I just said, I got to do something different. This isn't going to work for me. I'm missing my kids' barbecues on Sunday with the family. I'm missing, soccer games. I'm telling my wife I'm going to be home late tonight for no reason, just so I could, do busy work. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in that cycle where they feel like if I just do more, I'll get better results. And what I learned kind of the hard way, but opportunistically through my mentors and coaches that I hired at that time was I got to work on Joe, right? When I become a better Joe, everything else starts to come into alignment. When I start working on myself, I start becoming a better father, a better husband, a better leader, a better business owner, a better coach to my people. And, ultimately I was able to, um, you know, figure that all out. And now I help other people navigate those things through their life and their business. And what I figured out was what I call the 5 roads to victory. The U.S. Navy Seabees, I call it this because the Seabees back in World War II had physical 5 roads that they were designing around the globe, to give our forces access to things and to block off, access to things from our adversaries. And so when I created this thing, I call it the 5 roads to victory. It's really the five dominating things that we have to change about ourselves in order to find the success that we want to find.
Hmm. Can you share with the five? Is there a?
Sure. Yeah, I can. Yeah. So the first one I talk about, Darren, is what we call getting your mind right, or your limiting beliefs, right? Because so many of us, we say to ourselves, things like, I'm not good enough, I'm not fast enough, I'm not educated enough, right? I'm not capable of this. Why would I do that? Because I'm comfortable where I am. And the reality of it is, a lot of times when we have those conversations with ourselves, it's literally conversations with ourselves, right? Like when you go to decide to do something big, or you set a new goal and you start hearing that little voice in your head, that voice is your voice, right? So understanding that I get to control that voice, I get to decide what that voice says to me. And a lot of times when we try to make a decision that's big, we start to do what? We start to rationalize, right? We start to, oh, well, maybe this, that. Well, really, if we break that down, what we're doing is we're telling ourselves rational lies, right? We say to ourselves, I want to go out and I want to build whatever. I want to do 10 flips a year. And then before you can even get the thought past your head, right? You're all of a sudden hear that voice. 10 might be too many. Where am I going to get the capital for that? How am I going to do that? I don't have a team to work with. How does anybody else do this? Maybe I should just stay where I'm at and do what I'm doing. Right. And we rationalized the reasons why we can't grow. So the first thing I do with my coaching clients is look into what's their limiting beliefs, what's their value system, what's the standards that they live by, why do they want what they want, and create results and purpose around that so that we can start to change that inner voice to actually catapult you to success instead of holding you back from their goals.
No, that's that limiting belief. That's pretty powerful stuff there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, so in your work with people on the coaching and that, um, what kind of a timeline do you find for people to have some sort of a measurable a change? I mean, obviously, you were saying working on yourself and that, but I'm just kind of curious. What, if somebody says, okay, I'm tired, I want more, you know, putting in the work. I need somebody to kind of guide me along the way to get to where I want to be, kind of thing. Um, is there any kind of like an expectation on on how long is it, or is it based on how big your goal is, or is there like to see some sort of, a meaningful change and to get some, some sort of a positive results?
Absolutely. I've had people have results instantly within weeks. And then, there's some people that it takes a lot to get through to reset that mindset and reset that thought process. And, it takes, a month or two. But the reality of it is I've never had anybody work with me for 6 months that didn't see incredible results. And we call it the 36 and 6, right? It's about collapsing time, or what we call turning decades into days. We can accomplish 3 years of what we normally think we could accomplish in 6 months if we know the plan, if we know, where we're going. And so the second part of that process is really what we call the plan of attack, right? So if I'm in the military and I'm going to board up on a C5 and I'm going to go invade a foreign country, right? We don't just jump in the back of the plane and parachute out the back and land and go, okay, what's next, right? We have
Right.
an actual plan of attack, right? And so the challenge is, Darren, that most people spend more time planning their trip to Mexico for a week than they do with their life and their business, right? If you're going to Mexico, you know what plane you're going on, you know what seat you're sitting in, right? You know how you're going to handle transportation to and from. When I get to that hotel, do I have a pool view? Do I have an ocean view, right? Am I near the beach? How far am I from the bar? All of these things. And so people know every step of their 7-day trip to Mexico. But you say to somebody, what do you want in life? What are your goals? What would your perfect day look like, right? How much money do you really want to make? Right. And people don't have the answer for this because we didn't reverse engineer. And remember, we're talking about the outcome, not the task. And so many people spend their day to day doing tasks, doing to-do lists, checking off the box to make themselves feel good. And they're just putting out fires all day. But Darren, I tell a lot of entrepreneurs that the ones that are putting out the most fires, right? The ones that pride themselves, like I put out fires all day long, they're walking behind the building and they're lighting matches. Right? They're literally setting themselves on fire so that they can feel good about putting themselves out. And so what we want to focus on instead of the fire starters is how do we convert that energy into outcome-based goals, right? What do I really want to see? What do I really want to achieve? And then reverse engineer it from there.
Now, I love the mindset, or just the foresight of,
Sure.
reverse engineering, understanding where I want to go. Now, how am I going to get there, kind of thing, and working backwards from there. That's pretty powerful. And
Yeah, and most importantly, creating a strategic plan around that so that you know what you need to get done in order for it to be accomplished for you, step by step.
So let me ask you this. So your role as a coach, is there accountability factor here? Are you holding people's feet to the fire, or is it more a matter of a kind of a, talk to me a little bit about how that relationship works?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're getting ahead of me a little bit. That's step
Oh,
5. But
sorry,
at
I'm
the
sorry.
end, no, it's okay. No, I mean, I love to answer that. I mean, the challenge is this: when someone feels like, they need to be held accountable or hold their feet to the fire, they're thinking like, I'm going to have a coach yelling at me or telling me what to do. And the reality is it's almost opposite, right? Because when we reset the mindset and we control what is the outcome, what are the results, why you hear people say, what's your why? Right. And everyone says, oh, well, it's my kids or it's my wife or my grandkid. Like, what's your why? And generally, look, it's a BS answer to cover up something, right? Because the truth is, any one of us that have kids, yeah, we do everything for our kids, right? But that doesn't mean every goal I have is in alignment with my kids, right? If I want to create a multi-million-dollar business so that I can have time freedom and I can only work a couple hours a week running it or letting it run itself, I'm not doing that for my kids. I'm selfishly doing it for me so I can control my time. Maybe I'm going to spend more time with my kids. Maybe I'm going to buy them cooler stuff or give them more opportunity, or maybe I'm going to start a charity, or maybe I'm going to, there's so many angles I could take that. So what is the result and what is the outcome and the purpose that I'm actually trying to get out of building a multi-million-dollar business? So many people chase the dollar sign and not the outcome that they're looking for, not the actual purpose of why you want to create it to begin with. And that's really your why, Darren. When we know our why, that's what drives us. That's what keeps us, when we hit obstacles, that's what keeps us going forward, right? You're not just going to stop at a stop sign because, it came up. When you're focused on your why, you're going to run the stop sign because nothing's going to keep you from getting to that goal. Make sense?
Yeah, no, that's again, knowing why you're doing it. I mean, that's really kind of the key thing there.
Yeah, absolutely. You
So
have to
I'm
have
sorry.
that piece dialed in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't mean to run past your
Yeah.
the
They all go out of order. Look,
Okay.
It doesn't matter. It's okay. I mean, there's really, again, there's no right or wrong for how these things happen. These are literally, these aren't theory. These are the things that I do on a daily basis, but I really keyed in on what makes me, be able to do what I do and build a lifestyle business around, what I want to do every day, who I want to work with, who I want to be around.
Oh, that's good stuff. Joe, if we could, I'd like to shift gears here for a second.
Sure.
By day, I'm an insurance broker, and I work with my clients to assess risk and determine what to do with the risk. And there's 3 strategies we typically consider. We first look to see if we can avoid the risk. If that's not an option, we look to see if we can minimize the risk. And if we can't avoid nor minimize the risk, then we look to see how we can transfer the risk. And that's what an insurance policy is. And I like to ask my guests if they can look at their own situation. Could be your clients, investors, tenants, the market, opportunities. But if you can take a look at your situation and identify what you consider to be the biggest risk. And for clarity, I'm not necessarily looking for an insurance related answer. But if you're willing, I'd like to ask you, Joe Evangelisti, what is the biggest risk?
Absolutely. And I have an insurance background as well. So, I mean, I'm not going to answer it from an insurance perspective, but I understand where you're coming from. And look, I think insurance is one way, we could talk about risk, but really when we're talking about risk in life and we're talking about risk in success and growth and contribution and creating something that, when we talk about legacy wealth or legacy building, I think about legacy as when I create that thing, there's some kid 100 years from now who's never heard my name, who's going to be impacted by that because his grandfather and father, taught that, took it down the line and created that long-term legacy and wealth, right? In order to create that, there's no way you can do it without risk, right? Everything we do is risk. You drive your car to work in the morning, it's a risk, but you don't not work, right? You don't not go to your job. It's the same thing, I think, in our industry is there's going to be a lot of risks, but the one way that we can create risk mitigation is through proper due diligence, through making sure we check all of our boxes, through thinking 12 months to 2 years in advance or 5 years in advance in some cases, right? So when it comes to let's say self-storage development, for an example, there's a lot of outliers, right? The market could change. The price of materials right now is going through the roof. And so we build in contingencies for these things. We pay attention to the what ifs. We look ahead to, making sure that we ask the right questions and do the proper due diligence. We don't buy sites that, could contain an underground oil spill or, have major water issues or any of that type of thing. So I think the best way to mitigate risk when you're in the development business and you're in the construction business is to do the proper due diligence. Like you hear most of the nightmare stories of big developments gone wrong. It's because someone forgot to ask the right question. Someone forgot to do the right study. Someone skipped paying for the feasibility report and just went all in on a gut feeling. One of the things about these big deals that I like is there's so many people involved in the approval process. Right? It goes through 20 different hands before we say yes and before we even decide to go take investor money in. So we want to make sure that we're mitigating the risk to create the best possible upside, knowing that, hey, shit's going to go wrong. We have problems. Things happen, right? And then being surrounded by really good problem solvers. So when they come up, we have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D.
No, due diligence. That's kind of, I see it too many times as like I said, people get all excited and don't consider the downside. And next thing you know, they're either out of business or upside down, or it's just it was something that was avoidable, but they just chose to look the other way, kind of thing. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Joe, where can the listeners go if they'd like to learn more or connect with you?
Yeah, there's 2 places. If they're looking for expansion on the executive coaching and peak performance side, we have a website called elevatewithjoe.com. It's elevatewithjoe.com. And that they want to check out us on the storage side, our storage website is investwithlegacy.com, investwithlegacy. So you can check out our storage deals there. And of course, if you're looking to grow as a person and a business owner, and you want to see real results, then you go to the elevatewithjoe.com.
Awesome. Joe, I can't say thanks enough for taking the time to talk today. I've enjoyed it and learned a lot, and hope we can do it again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
All right. For our listeners, if you like this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, the more you know, the more you grow. That's all we've got this week. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.